Hello ladies, this is Breanna from howtoblackhair.com. For this tutorial, I will be showing you exactly how I achieved this super beautiful, gorgeous, creative hairstyle called Stitch Braids. And of course, I am going to be teaching you on myself. So I know lately I haven't been doing any braid tutorials, but of course, here's one for you. So right now, what you see here is just a spin around of how much progress I've made with my hair so far. And I'm going to be demonstrating on this section on the right side of my head so I can show you exactly how to do this braid. First, I'm going to begin removing this ouchless rubber band. Ouchless rubber bands are also called plastic rubber bands, and this is great for it not snagging on your hair. So now you want to make sure you're using a wide tooth comb to thoroughly detangle your sections of hair. This is a very sleek and smooth hairstyle, so you want to smooth out all of your hair. Now you want to take the end of your rat tail comb and you want to part a triangular parting at the very beginning of your braid. This is going to be the first point you're going to actually start braiding for your stitch braids. So in order for me to keep this part separate, I'm just going to braid an individual braid instead of putting a rubber band on it since it's such a small section of hair. You could also use a duck bill clip to keep that section away from the rest of your hair if you so choose. Now taking the end of your rat tail comb, you're going to part a line going all the way near your ear. Make sure that every part on your stitch braids is a rectangular part. This is going to make your stitch braids look flawless. Now it's time to slick down both sides of your part, and you want to make sure that you're using your favorite edge control to do so. So I am using Hicks edge control, and sometimes I use a couple of other brands. It just depends on whatever I have available at the time. So you can use any edge control you want, it really doesn't matter. You just want to make sure that both sides of your parts are slick. Now after smoothing it in, this is how both sides of your part should look. So this is the back, and then I'm going to show you the front once again. Now it's time to use that plastic rubber band so that way you can create your mini ponytails. What you want to do is make sure you loop it around at least 10 times. I know that might sound excessive, but plastic rubber bands are extremely flexible and stretchy. So if you only loop like 2 or 3 times, it's not going to hold that well for you. So I literally did this probably about 10 times before I finished this ponytail. And so far, this is exactly how it should look. So now I'm going to show you on one more section of my hair. And as I've stated before, make sure that every single part for your stitch braids is a rectangular part. If it's a square part, the size of your braid will actually hide your parting and it won't look like a stitch braid. It'll just look like a regular cornrow braid. That's why it's so important to make sure that you have narrow but rectangular partings for your braids. And of course, make sure you're always slicking both sides and just smooth it in as best as you can. As you can see here, this is how your ponytail should look so far. Now I am using Sassy 100% Kanekalon Jumbo Braiding Hair, and I'm only using 3 packages of hair. The colors that I decided to use is color number 1, number 4, and number 6. Make sure that each piece of your hair is slowly increasing in size. One huge issue that I noticed with stitch braids is that they get big too fast, and that's because you gotta have small pieces of hair that gradually get bigger. So this is how your pre-sectioned hairs should look. Now to begin braiding, of course, we are going to take down that individual braid we braided at the beginning. And remember, you could have used a clip to keep it sectioned if you preferred. Make sure to finish thoroughly detangling the rest of your hair because edge control will start to cause the hairs that's nearest your rubber band to be a little stiff. You want to make sure that it's fully detangled before you begin braiding. Also, make sure that your rubber bands are only being looped so far as to where you have rectangular partings. Now put edge control at the beginning of that braid to have it nice and slick down right before we begin doing our cornrow. to do is slightly pinch the hair there, so it's helping me to see the direction that I want to go. Now, take the tiniest piece of hair and you're going to divide it into 3. So ladies, if you know how to cornrow, you already know how this goes. But if not, make sure to go to howtoblackhair.com to purchase that cornrow braiding DVD, since this is an advanced hairstyle. We're going to be incorporating elements of the cornrow braid as well as the Ghana braid. And the Ghana braid DVD can also be purchased at howtoblackhair.com as well. Now it's time to start adding hair, and I'm just gonna take you just a little slow-mo just to show you how to prepare your first strand of hair in your hand. This is gonna help you to hook that hair around your index finger so that you can keep braiding. Take the piece that's nearest the front of your face and put it over your head, and then continue braiding about a couple of times. Once your hand is free again, the exact hand that you loop the hair in, grab that piece of hair, loop it underneath, and then continue braiding. Remember, this is an advanced hairstyle because it's incorporating 2 different braiding elements. So if you already know how to Ghana braid, I know you will get this. But if not, just keep watching as I show you exactly how to loop the pieces into your braids. So as you can see here, my braid is slightly getting bigger, and that's why it's so important that when you're sectioning your pieces of braiding hair, it's gradually going up in size. And one tip that I want to mention is that if you want to determine how many pre-sectioned pieces of hair you need to be ready on your table before you begin braiding, is to count the number of rubber bands you have on your part. I believe I have about 5 rubber bands on this part, and that means that you want to at least have 5 different graduating sections of hair to add into your braid. What I like to do sometimes is to basically add 2 more on top of that. So say for instance that I have 5 rubber bands on this section here, then I will actually have 7 pre-sectioned pieces of hair on my table so that I can continue to grab and braid as I go. So now you're just gonna keep braiding until you get down to the ends. Ladies, it's time for a quick tip. In order to make your braids in at the very tips, always borrow long strands of hair from a neighboring leg of your braid. So as you can see here, I'm gonna pinch off a tiny piece and I'm gonna add it to the middle. So that way when I'm braiding, my braid ends at the very bottom and I don't have chunky split off pieces of hair from the braid. It can come at a very fine point. Now that I'm done braiding, the question that I get asked so much on all my braid tutorials is, how do you make your braids even? Some braids are too long, some are too short. So I'm gonna show you exactly how to do that. First, you wanna determine which braids are too long, and then you wanna start removing the end of the braid with your fingers, and then you are going to trim those hairs. So that way, the very end of the braid comes at the same point as the rest. So after rebraiding and trimming, this is how the braid should look. And now it's time to curl those ends. You could leave them straight if you like, but for this look, it looks so pretty when you have a slight curl near the tip. In order to curl with a cold wave rod curler, you want to curl by rolling the tail on itself, and then you want to start winding the braid up against the rod. These are cold wave rollers because that means that you would typically use this on your hair when you're setting it without using any heat, basically setting your hair overnight. But for these plastic rods, I'm going to show you how to hot water dip them. So we're going to take these and put it in this cup here. Slowly insert them one at a time because we don't want a tragic mess. And what I mean by that is the water just spilling all over the place and then you get all frustrated and upset because you burned your legs. We don't want that to happen. After dipping it for about a couple of minutes, you're then gonna pull it out onto your towel and squeeze it dry. Now, when unraveling your braid from the rod, this is all you gotta do. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Use your scissors to clean up those stray hairs so that your curl will look neat and pretty. Now it's time to detail those edges because this look, just like any other look, is not complete until them edges are laid and slayed. So use your favorite edge control and just apply a little bit because remember, we already put edge control on all of our parts. So please don't go all overkill and crazy on this. Add a little dab and then just use your comb and fingers to give you some swoops because this is how you want it to turn out. Now, those little braids you see there is what you want to do when you're creating this look. You just braid a tiny cornrow braid and then you add it into a rubber band section. Ladies, as you can see, this style was so easy to achieve. I know it looks complicated, but it's really not. This style is such a cute look and it's extremely inexpensive. So voila, ladies, our stitch braids is finally complete. And I know the tutorial is over, but don't be sad. If you want to see more braid tutorials and looks like these, all you gotta do is make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel for more.